Hey, I fell asleep there for a second. Welcome to Aaron Live. It's lunch with Aaron today. If you'll notice, I got freshly buzzed here, so I don't have that like white Bozo the Clown hair sticking out. Um, Man, I tell you, I might as well be a walking advertisement, right? Like a sandwich board for Wraith of God. Oh, how fatiguing. But what a great project. So I've got to be excited about it and push it because actually I'm excited about it. Um, but I was just sitting here looking at this. Remember this? New 52, Justice League International. This is number 2. This is the last cover. I got to do the first 2 covers, and they gave them to David Finch. And I love David Finch. Did great covers, but I still was not very happy about that. But they had to give him. He had such a high cover rate. They had to actually give him a book that could justify his cover rate. And well, Justice League International was selling pretty well. So guess what? Anyway, so I was thumbing through this. Now look at that double page spread right there. That giant sort of, I don't know, you want to say Kirby-esque, but maybe, giant sentinel robot thing that, and all the Justice League is falling from him. That's kind of an exciting way to open a comic. Love that page. This comic also featured if I can find it. The first appearance of Paraxis, not to be confused with Ronan the Accuser, but again, this was very much meant to be sort of a Kirby-esque kind of villain, because we were really kind of going for a Silver Age feel to this book, and I think that's why it was kind of popular. There you go, Praxis. Wouldn't that have been a great toy? They never made it into a toy. I remember talking to Dan DiDio at a Boston Con once. I said, why don't you make some of my characters into toys? And he goes, which one? I go, I don't know. How about that Paraxis guy? He's huge. He'd be a great toy with that big kind of pickaxe weapon thing he's got. And that was a spaceship. I designed that spaceship too. It was meant to be, he's kind of a mining ship. So anyway, I don't know. I just saw that laying there. Thought I'd share. Let's see who's here. My goodness. Aaron Louvier's here. All right. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is always here. Joe Bernardo sending his aloha greetings from Vegas. Lady Celtic Moon is here. Prater 7. Mike Craw. Ahoy, chat. Ahoy, Aaron. Hey, yo. No, it's ahoy, hoy, chat. Hey, yo, Aaron. It's like a song or something, isn't it? Grats on breaking 1100. Thank you very much. He's talking about the backers. How about this? When a Kit Carter comic will be published? That's kind of next on my agenda, actually. We're going to be shooting for next summer, so we'll see how it all plays out. Jeff, I know I can't escape you no matter how hard I try. Thank you very much. Very excited about it. Of course, I couldn't have done it without all of you and everyone else that's involved in the project. I'm really actually excited about that sticker set I get to do now. Oh, man. Jam and promo music. How about that? Yes. There you go. Leg Kick's agreeing with me. That's how comics should open up. They should be exciting. And gosh darn it, they should. Wolverine, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. That's Singing in the Rain. Old Dirty Fatty is here. No, Kit Carter is much too lighthearted for Wraith of God. It would be such a strange juxtaposition of how should I say, not feeling, but what am I trying to say? The content, anyway, yeah, it would be too humorous and too grim, and it would might cause the end of the universe if those two came together. So anyway, Let me show you something. I did this. This is a commission I just finished. How about that? Cerebus and Michelangelo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as barbarians. Now, you don't get requests like that very often, but that's pretty fun stuff right there. So thought I'd share that. It's kind of a show and tell kind of day. I just finished this last night, and someone already bought it before I just put it up on social media. This is Merv the Astro Chimp, who is of course Kit Carter's partner. And since I drew Merv the Astro Chimp, I was like, well, I got to draw Kit Carter to go with it. So that's why I'm doing this live stream. Plus, I really haven't been live streaming that much lately, and because I've been on everybody else's channel, it seems like, and then it's like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's my dog barking. You must know I'm live streaming. Let me get my camera ready here for drawing action. So anyway, yeah, so I was like, if I did Merv the Astro Chimp, I'm going to go close this door. Just, last second live stream, hijinks. Not that it'll cover up his barking too much, but yeah, but anyway, so I thought I need to come on my own channel. I need to draw because that's what I do. And that's what you guys expect, right? So Statistical Zero is here. Comics Legend, will there be a Wraith of God Part 2? Yes, there will be. Yeah, he's like, Kit Carter appearing in Wraith of God would be like Starlight Cats appearing in Glorious Rex. That's probably 2. That's very French of you to say that. Je ne sais quoi. We should be excited. This is going to be an epic book. It is going to be epic. And I'm really... it actually is cooler. And my wife, who like runs about 20 degrees hotter than I do, has all the windows open all the time. And it's like, I mean, the sun's out now, but it's been getting cold at night. And oh my gosh, it's like an ice box. And so I put my old coat on. You know that old saying when your parents didn't want to turn the heat on? It's like, put a sweater on if you're cold. So that's kind of what we do around here. So Shelly can keep cool. I put on my Husker gear. They're playing Oklahoma this weekend. That could get ugly, but my hope springs eternal. Yeah, well, Mike, I'm sure he'll, you never know what these guys are doing during the day. A lot of people actually work during the day. I work whenever. And actually, this is work because I will be drawing, but I'm working on the channel, baby. So let's, oh, John Smith is here. Hey, John, welcome. Why don't we, I haven't done this in a long time, and I keep forgetting to do this, and it is sort of important. So let's do this public service announcement. So yeah, like and subscribe. As they say, hit that like button like a million times or something. I don't know. I don't even know how this stuff works, but I do know I need likes, I need comments, and I need subscription. So there you have it. You know what I forgot to do? Ah, so dumb. I forgot to post the link to Wraith of God on the video. And that's just plain foolishness. So what I have to do now is I have to open another window on another server. And then I got to copy and paste. And so just bear with me here as I ramble on. Oh my goodness, we're almost at 82,000. How about that? I'll leave this open because I might want to visit that. Excuse me for clearing my throat every 5 seconds. I don't know what my deal is. So we go to YouTube. Search for me, because that's what we're watching, right? Oh, there I am. It says I'm live right now. So then I go into edit video, right? And then I go in here and pop in the link. There it is. There we go. So now it should magically appear in the description. So what was that all about? That's all about me saying that if you want to back Wraith of God, if you haven't backed Wraith of God, you can go there, and the link is in the description of the video, of the YouTube channel video you're watching right this second. And you can go there and contribute to the campaign, or just look at the pictures, because there's plenty of pictures going on there. So I want to do a quick, before I start drawing, I want to share my screen, which requires some dexterity, perhaps more than I have. Okay, there we go. So I sent out a mailer, but if you haven't ordered yet, you wouldn't be on the list to get the mailer. But what I have added is this right here. This is the Wraith of God Cover A in Roughs Ash Can. People have been bugging me about, you know, hey, why don't you do an ash can of like all the roughs and layouts for the book? It's not going to have every single rough and layout in it, but it'll have the best ones. So you can kind of get an idea of what the process looked like for making the book. And so that's available with one of the issues. If you want to get a copy of Wraith of God and the rough sketchbook, you can get that as a, and those both come signed if you do it with that perk, or you can just get this as an add-on when you're ordering something else, and it doesn't come signed that way. But so that's sort of the incentive to get the perk, is, you know, to get the signed books. But anyway, yeah. So, and I will be adjusting this Ultimate Lopresti Power Pack soon, and the reason why is because I have a limited number. I have a limited number of Garbage Man trade paperbacks, but we still seem to have, we're okay on those right now. But I have a very limited number of Power Cubed trade paperbacks, and I think I've only got like 3 left. So once I sell 3 more of those Ultimate Lopresti Power Packs, I'll be removing the Power Cubed and replacing it with the Ash Can Rough, Wraith of God Roughs Ash Can. That will replace, and they're exactly the same price. They're $15. So so it fits in there very nicely, and it won't affect anybody that's already ordered it, obviously. But when I change it, that's just going forward for people that order in the future. We won't be able to get the Power Cubed trade anymore unless I can dig up some more copies, which I'm trying to do, but I won't know about that until we're farther probably in the in-demand process. But anyway, just to give you some little insider information on that stuff. But anyway, okay, so that's that, and it's going well, as you can see, so I'm quite happy about that. Alrighty. Yeah, you know, this is a big problem. There's 2 things that is problematic with the Indiegogo format. One is you can't edit anything. Okay, so if I go in there and like when I had to switch out my original cover C option to my new cover C option, I couldn't just go in and edit the picture, right? I had to go in and cancel, or not cancel, but hide that perk level, right? So all the orders are still stored and everything. It's not like I erased the orders or anything. Those are still stored, but then I have to go in and create a new perk, and it starts over at 0 again. So you look at it and say, well, how come no one's ordered a copy of this? Well, they have ordered tons of copies of them, but because I had to, it doesn't let you edit anything on the perk once someone's ordered it. You have to create a whole new perk, which is a colossal pain in the butt. So I did that, right, when I switched out the cover C options. But then I just realized last night that I'd screwed up on the shipping. Okay, so not in the U.S. shipping, but the international shipping. And I know I haven't sold that many international copies, so I'm not, you know, wasn't losing sleep over it. But I was like, because I was in a hurry to get the new cover up and replace it with as little downtime as possible, I made a mistake on the shipping on 2 of the perks. So I had to go back in last night, cancel those perks, well, not cancel them, hide those perks, and then create 2 new perks to replace them, which then started the counting over at 0 again. It's just a pain. And on top of that, as Mike was pointing out, when you add a new perk like this and you've already ordered, you can't just add it on without the shipping, which you would be able to do, because additional shipping for add-ons is like $1, right? But if you've already ordered and you want to get something new, then you have to cancel your order and reorder with all the new stuff. So again, pain in the butt. I don't know why they do it the way they do it. And I think probably the biggest reason is that Indiegogo was not necessarily, or a Kickstarter for that matter, were not necessarily designed to sell comic books on, right? They were designed for something like, you know, some invention or a, you know, big piece of machinery or something that isn't going to have these sort of changes and alterations to them, right? And especially when you're selling pre-printed product like Garbage Man trade paperback, or the, you know, where you have maybe necessarily a limited supply of those, you can only sell so many and then you're out of them, right? You know, that's not going to happen when someone's creating a, you know, an adjustable belt, you know, or so I think someone needs to go in there and kind of understand that there's a lot of people doing comics on these crowdfunding formats now, and to kind of reformat them so that they're friendly to those type of things. But at this point, it is what it is. So it's a pain in the butt. And I always get emails and notices from people saying, oh my gosh, how come that went back to 0? Did I just lose my order? And I'm like, no, everybody's order is fine. If you placed an order, you're protected, you're saved in the system. I've got it. No worries. But if I do have to edit something, then it just starts over. The new perk starts over from 0, but it does not cancel out the order that you placed previously to it. So now I'm exhausted. I'm going to go to bed. AJ Tom's here. Well, hey, AJ. K Manifesto is here with his traditional what's up. I think he just says it like that to make himself seem younger. What's this now? Breaks my heart that the layouts is an add-on. I don't want to mess with the returns and rebuys. Yeah, I know. You know what's going to happen though, you guys, if you're patient. And we all have to be patient anyway, because this stuff isn't going to ship until early next year. But I will overprint a certain amount of everything. Okay, the Garbage Man stuff, I don't have control over that because that's Dark Horse is publishing that. But the like the ash can for the roughs, or the what was I going to say? The ash can for the roughs, the comics themselves, I overprint on those, and I will have a more than likely an eBay store, or they'll probably have them on my website as well, for orders separately there. Of course, that doesn't solve your shipping problem, and I understand when statistical 0, I think, is overseas, right? You're in England or someplace, so I mean, it still sucks because I wish there was some. The problem is I would tell people, hey, just order it and I'll remember not to charge you the extra shipping. But by the time, 4 or 5 months let me try that again. 4 or 5 months from now, when that finally time comes for me to start shipping stuff out, it's going to be hard to remember specific little requests and, oh yeah, did he want this or did he want that? So yeah, I know it's a pain. And I wasn't planning on doing the sketchbook at all, or the ash can, excuse me, at all, but a lot of people seem to want it. So it's a little easier to take if you're in the US. It's like if you have to order it separately and it's $8 shipping or whatever, it still kind of sucks, but it's not horrible. But if you're overseas and you have to pay $25 for a $15 book just to ship it, that sucks. And I understand that. And I wish there was something we could do about it. But unfortunately, right now, there isn't much I can do. You thought about Wraith figurines in the future? You know what I'd really like to do? Yeah, I think of everything. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to be able to do it. You saw that, if you just look at what Ethan Van Sciver's done on his Cyberfrog action figures and how expensive that is he's honestly, when he says he's not making any money on those, he's not. I mean, they are super expensive to produce. Now he's done extra parts and, different, you can switch the heads and all that kind of stuff. I mean, so he's really going to town on those with the articulation and everything, but those are expensive. What I would love to do is like do a maquette, like, do a sculpt, and like a statue. Obviously that'd be very high end. It wouldn't be affordable for everyone if you did that, but that would be kind of cool. But yeah, action figures are expensive. And you really have to have a large backing to go that route. And I don't have that yet. That's what we're building. That's what we're working for, the little Presti verse and these different, Wraith of God's the first step, and we'll see. But, in the next campaign, we're going to have some t-shirts available. Maybe we'll do some hats, things like that. You just sort of, it's really, you get excited about this stuff, and it's really hard not to put the horse, or pardon me, the carriage in front of the horse. But you got to, say, okay, my number one priority right now, get Wraith of God done and out on time. So everybody feels like, oh yeah, we can trust this guy. And then you can start expanding and producing more merchandise and more material that will, appeal to a broader range of people. So baby steps. But I hear you, man. Man, Paul, you are a traveling machine. Just got back from Toronto and enjoying some lunch with Lopresti. That's good. Excellent. Paul, of course, visited me at Rose City Comic Con this past weekend. I was there for 2 of the 3 days, and decided to take Sunday off because actually I didn't want to skip the show. I mean, skip my live stream on Sunday. And we actually had a pretty funny one too. Shelley was in top form. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch this camera. Oh, okay, everything looks like it's where it's supposed to be. Hey, there it is. I know I keep promising to get a drafting table set up right here, and it is in my very near future plans, but you'll notice I'm using the tan paper today. Okay, yeah, so I showed you this. So I did, Merv the Astro Chimp. So now we're going to do a little Kit Carter to go with it, just as, just for fun. Just for fun. I don't need that light on, so we'll get rid of that. And let's begin. Whenever I draw Kit Carter, I have to remember if I draw her face too big, I don't have room for the bubble helmet. But I'm going to draw her face too big anyway. So the bubble helmet is going to bleed off the page, but that's all right. Yeah, so I'm really leaning towards an anthology book, 64-page anthology book next time out. It'll have a Kit Carter story and a Wraith of God story and probably a Garbage Man story in it. That's what I'm thinking of right now anyway. But like I said, I don't want to get the cart in front of the horse. Got to get Wraith of God taken care of first, and then we'll go from there. I've been conversing with the Swedish publisher. Hmm. 3D printable statue of Wraith and Esther. How about that? Yeah, if I got a 3D printer, I could do that. When my son worked at Legacy Special Effects down in Burbank a couple of years ago, they had a really big one, and I think they were printing out a big Hulk head or something. It was really cool. I was going to show you guys something. Oh, yeah. I talked to my Swedish publisher for this. This is a dystopian, or should we say current event. This is a dystopian future story called New Exodus, and features this as kind of our hero here. He's kind of Well, he's human, but he has a few cyborg parts to him, which is sort of part of the story. But anyway, I was just contacting my Swedish publisher. This is supposed to be coming out pretty soon. I think it's going to be out digitally, but it's going to be digitally in black and white, and I think he wanted to do a print version in color, so we'll see. So it's part of a bigger anthology. And but he just talked to me or contacted me about possibly doing a mini series of this character down the line. I said, well, I got Wraith of God. Yeah, you know, I rip off anybody I can. So this is an interesting concept, but comment, but it's actually true. The average comic reader is not big on anthologies, but I think in like the DC Marvel reader are generally not interested in anthologies, but I find that people that are more inclined or are open to indie projects are more interested in that, because I think you guys see the advantageous how advantageous a large format, meaning page-wise, anthology can be to someone like me, for example, that's trying to get more characters out into the marketplace. And when you're using crowdfunding as your principal source at this point, which many of us are, you can't produce, you know, large volumes of books, mainly because it's not, you know, if I was doing 10 books a year and they were $25 a piece, you can't imagine that I would get, you know, continued support. But if you do it, you know, twice a year or something, I think you're more likely to do something sustainable. But at the same time, you can't get a lot of product out quickly. So, and you don't want to neglect, like if Wraith of God has been very popular, at least in the, you know, ordering stages. Obviously, you guys will be the judge of it when it actually comes out on how well you like it or not. But you know, if it gets well received, like I think it will, then you're going to have people that are going to want more of that. So you don't want to neglect that, but at the same time, you've got other things. Like I've got people saying, "When are you going to do Kid Carter?" And are we going to see another Garbage Man story and all this kind of stuff? And it's like, well, yeah, I want to do all that, but and plus I got some other characters I wouldn't mind, you know, showing you guys. And but where do you have time to produce all of it, right? So if you do an anthology, and a larger sized anthology, not like, you know, Marvel's old Tales of Suspense where you had 2 10-page stories. This is like 3 20+ page stories, right? So you're getting a full, each story is a full comic, right? And it doesn't allow you to do a cliffhanger or anything, because you don't want to leave people, you know, hanging for 6 or 7 months until they get the next installment. But I do think it's a viable way to get, you know, several different stories and different characters out there. And I think in this marketplace, meaning the, you know, the independent market and the Comicsgate market, and that, you know, you'd get enough support for something like that to be able to do it. So that's my thought process anyway at this point. And things always can change going forward, but I was thinking of just going, you know, taking Kit Carter, maybe just going all digital with her and doing digital stories. But I don't know. I I like print so much that it's hard for me to just totally embrace this digital age we're living in. And there might be 2 or 3 people out there that want to see some more Powered Cubed. I don't know. So I've never been one of those guys who just I've never been one of those guys who just had like one idea, you know, like and I'm going to focus the rest of my life on doing, you know, like Todd McFarlane does Spawn, or, you know, maybe Dale Keown just does Pit for the rest of his life, or I got different characters and different ideas that I want to explore at least once, you know, and get them out there. And, you know, if they're not well received, then you move on to the next thing that people like. But everybody loves bubble helmeted space girls, right? That's a given. That's not a bad idea right there. And but anytime you get like a bunch of guys working together, and it's always hard to keep everybody on the same page creatively on what they want to do. And so then it ultimately becomes this thing where, you know, we're probably better off doing our own thing. But Graham is, I think he's announced it, that we'll be doing an anthology book with several different creators. So we are moving in that direction. We're trying to get our ideas out there, and the only way to do that, obviously, is to enlist the aid of other creative people. The problem is you can't ever guarantee how much money you might raise on an Indiegogo, so it's really hard to tell someone, yeah, I can pay you this much, or I can pay you that much if you do it, because you don't really know until you get there. Although I think after you've done a couple projects, you can sort of gauge what kind of support you have and what you can expect, you know, sales-wise or backer-wise, however you want to phrase that. Let's see, I look at your guys' books, Comicsgate, as the same as a buildup of the whole year's issues of stories. Well, you know, and the funny thing is we're not really sort of, we don't have connected universes, but we are sort of a connected, how should we say, a creative collective. So it's not, you know, it's not inconceivable that at some point, even though, you know, like Art Taber's Black and White Volume 2, which is funding right now on Indiegogo. You should check that out as well if you haven't. You know, who's to say that he wouldn't, you know, at some point do a crossover with, you know, Next Man, or pardon me, I keep saying Next Man. Andy Smith's First Man, which is now in demand as well on Indiegogo. You know, so all that stuff is, you know, is a possibility as we move forward. There's just, this is, I think, you know, I was talking to Dan DiDio a while ago, and he sort of described this as the Wild Wild West, or the gold rush of independent comics right now, through crowdfunding and stuff. And so it's new territory in a lot of ways. And I think we're all sort of kind of trying to figure out exactly what we can do and what we can't do, and who wants to be involved in just doing their own thing, or who wants to be involved possibly in teaming up with someone else to kind of create something bigger. It's very interesting. It's exciting and interesting because it's new. Not necessarily format-wise, obviously, we're still doing comics, but it's a new way to do them. And you've kind of got this unbridled freedom, as long as you don't piss off your customer base, right? You've got this freedom to kind of go in there and do some stuff without worrying about, someone else's continuity or, something like that. So these are very exciting times. And the one thing that you got with, like with the professionals, and those are the only guys I can speak for, because I know them well. But you got guys that are going to deliver. Okay, I know that there's been, I guess maybe more so in Kickstarter than Indiegogo, but there's been, there's been a few campaigns that people have just kind of taken the money and run, which is, I just can't even believe it. But that people would, I hate to sound stupid and naive, but that people would just do that. It's just so foreign to me to be that dishonest. But there are people that are doing that. And I know, you guys have to put your money out there early on the project, right? It's not like you go in the comic book shop and you can pick it up and thumb through it and go, well, I'm going to buy this. We're expecting you guys to kind of front the money on the project so it can get done. So you're putting a lot of faith in us to deliver, and so I can understand why there would be some people with some hesitancy about that. But like I said, this group of guys that I spend most of my time with are professionals, man, and they deliver, and they always have. And we've been industry stalwarts for a long time, and we understand, that how to deliver the product. And so I think you can rest assured, at least with this core group of guys. And like I said, I'm not saying anybody else wouldn't do it either. I'm just saying these guys I know well enough to know that I can say that you can count on getting your product and getting something really good. And so I think the more we're able to do that and to build the trust in the buyer community, then the more we'll be able to do. Let's see. I'm sorry, I've been rambling here and not paying attention to look at that, see? He's already setting up a crossover. I would liken the professionals to something like the Inklings with Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, where they are apart, but they meet to chat about the craft. That's kind of what we're doing. I think you're right. I like that. That's pretty heavy company when you throw in Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, but. Thank you, Frankie. Cool face. So neat to see how the drawing comes together. Well, thank you. Oh yeah. I am a big fan of Dan DiDio. He took care of me at DC. He was always very professional and always had my back. And so I know there's some people that don't like him, and that's just the way it is when you're in charge. You're gonna have fans and you're gonna have enemies. But I got nothing bad to say about him. I don't know. I'm new to Aaron's live streams, but are they normally this ASMR like? I don't know what that means. That's true. EVS is quite a gigantic personality and carries a lot of weight on his shoulders for the rest of us, that's for sure. I'm sorry, I'm taking a second here to catch up on the comments. Oh, you meant Dan Fraga, not Dan DiDio? Well, Fraga is working on something. I mean, he's got his black flag, right? He's working on it right now. He's posting double-page spreads and stuff. That's why I wasn't sure. That's why I thought maybe he meant it first, but then I was like, well, Dan is working on something. So, not knowing what ASMR means you're a winner. This is a dumb thing to say, but practice. I just reviewed some portfolios at Rose City, and one of the key things that you have to be able to do, you have to be able to get to a point where you can understand if your stuff is any good or not, and why it is or isn't any good. Okay. And that's a hard thing. Okay. Because you want to have self-confidence, but at the same time, you want to understand that you have to be able to see where you're failing and someone else is succeeding, right? And then once you can do that, then it's just a matter of getting your skill level up to a point where you can do what they're doing. But you understand what they're doing, then you just got to get yourself to a point where you can do it. Okay, and that's kind of the key. And so if your favorite artist is someone who's, I'm saying this from an artist standpoint, not as just if you're just a fan or a reader, you would have different tastes and different desires. But if you're an artist and your favorite artist is someone who's maybe mediocre, okay, then it's going to be harder for you to get to a higher level. And that sounds kind of condescending, and I don't mean it to, but what the point I'm trying to make is that, let's say, let's just say Adam Hughes, for example, okay, who draws really, really beautiful women, right? Probably the best in the business. You should be a fan of his work, right? If you're not, then I question your taste, but in art. But and I'm not saying maybe you don't like a subject matter or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about technique and the execution of the art. And so if you're looking at someone that does really, this is getting back to the face question, right? If you're looking at people that do really, like Gil Elvgren, for example, if you're into pinup art or something like that, that does really beautiful faces, or and you recognize that Adam Hughes does really beautiful faces, and there's other people that do, right? And you look at that stuff and you say, okay, that's kind of next level. I want my faces to look like that, not necessarily stylistically stealing it, but you understand that you're looking at Adam Hughes and you say, why does this girl's face pretty, as opposed to someone over here maybe who's not as good, and that face in that girl isn't as pretty, right? What are they seeing? What is it about the eyes? What is it about the nose? What is it about the mouth? That makes those things work. And it's being able to identify that stuff and then incorporate it into what you're doing. And so I just think I've got, to answer your question, which I really haven't, really breaking the face down and understanding what the attributes of a face that make it universally attractive or universally ugly, right? And because there's very many definitions of beauty, but it is a combination of how the eyes are the single most important thing. There's just absolutely nothing more important than the eyes. Okay, because I could move this down like this, and I could draw her like a big Bozo the Clown nose, right? You'd say, oh, she's not as cute as I thought she was, but those eyes are beautiful, right? And so then you got to find a nose that works, right? And there's many different shapes. Some of them do, some of them don't. And then the same with the mouth, you know. But it kind of goes like that. Get those eyes right first. Get some really pretty eyes. And there's different shapes and things like that. And it's find good resource material, you know, and have your focus on that stuff. If you're going through, you know, Google and looking for, you know, models, right? Because most models are going to have pretty faces, right? But they'll be different looking pretty faces, right? But you can take a look at how the eyes work and why is this particular girl's eyes beautiful, you know? And you incorporate those things, but just make sure you're looking at the right stuff to get you to a level so that you can get a consistently good representation of whatever it is you're trying to draw. If I was trying to draw a troll, I wouldn't be looking at, you know, fashion models. I might be looking at my favorite, you know, J.R. Tolkien artist or something. So I don't really know if I answered that question correctly. Those are difficult questions to answer. Well, yes, that's true. And mostly it does come down to the eyes. And that's an excellent point. I mean, everything, it's like building a house, right? You don't build like a killer house with a crappy foundation. You know, there's plenty of good books out there about, you know, the distance between eyes and how long a nose should be and where the mouth should be and the distance between. I mean, fundamentally, if you look at any drawing book, they'll basically tell you that there's this triangle, right? So you have your your eyes should be, your head should be 5 eyes apart. And these are general rules. They're not to be, you know, don't live and die by them, but you have an eye space in between here, an eye here, an eye there. Okay. The tip of your nose should be about an eye length like this so that it's triangular. Okay, but you can make that longer because some people have longer noses, some people have shorter noses. But if you're looking for that, you know, that ideal balance of a face, right? And then like an eye length here, an eye length here, and an eye length here. And obviously this is a little bit closer than that, but those are like rules of thumb, you know, or rules of eye. On the spatial relationship between the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and how it fits onto the face. And then, you know, they always say you can't break the rules until you understand the rules, right? And that's kind of the thing with art. You kind of, I used to hate drawing still lives when I was in school because I wanted to draw monsters and superheroes and all that kind of stuff. But I started understanding later that, you know, grasping the fundamentals of structure and form and light and shade are so valuable. And then you can apply them to anything. Once you've learned them, you can apply those to anything, to superheroes, to monsters, to, you know, beautiful women, pinup art, illustration, you know, landscapes, wildlife, whatever. But the fundamentals are all pretty much the same. And understanding how to create volume, how to, you know, how light and shadow works on different surfaces, different shapes, different forms. And it's understanding all that stuff, which is the boring stuff, that enables you to kind of then draw whatever and make it look good, because then you're applying those principles to everything that you do, subject matter wise. Let's get deep in here. But I always have very sort of, I don't think a lot of other artists or even upcoming artists necessarily want to listen to me lecture on art, because I'm very harsh. I think you have to be very, very hard on yourself. And, you know, most artists will say, no, 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 give yourself a break, man. Build yourself up. And I've never agreed with that, because you want to have confidence in what you're doing, certainly, but you never want to get comfortable either, because there's always somebody better coming up. And so you always need to be looking on how you can improve and say, okay, you know, this is okay, but it could have been better. And look for those areas where you can improve. And you're always looking at your work that way. So I'm never satisfied. And that, I don't know if that's 100% healthy, but it does keep me getting better. And a lot of people don't get better. They settle in, they find a style or something that works, and they go with it for the rest of their lives. And I cannot do that. Not that I don't have a style that I work in, obviously, but I think that style keeps improving. At least that's my goal, because I just don't think the stuff's that great, and that it can always be better. And you'll always be able to find someone who's doing better work than you are. I mean, it's not that hard. And so then you look at them and say, wow, that guy's really good. Why is he better than me? You know, and I don't want him to be better than me, so I'm going to work a little bit harder to get there. And you know, that's just my philosophy. Other people don't look at it that way, but I just think it's very easy to kind of settle in and be satisfied with where you're at because you've achieved a certain level, and then, you know, you kind of coast, and then that's when people pass you by and you're like, hey, how come no one's hiring me anymore? I don't know that I would ever say that. I've never told anybody that they needed to find another profession, and I've heard guys do that. And, you know, to be honest with you, I can tell, you know, I know what someone's stuff looks like that has professional ability or will have professional ability that maybe isn't there yet. You can tell. But, I mean, some people might have looked at my stuff when I was younger and thought it sucked. So, you know, and if they told me you should try something else, they'd have been wrong, right? So I'm always very careful not to go down that road. But I think people need to sort of, you know, figure that out on their own, because there's always a possibility that someone could make a leap or figure something out, or and I'm not going to be the guy to tell someone that they're shatter their dreams. But I will be, you know, I try to be honest with people in terms of where their work is at and what they need to improve on when I'm asked. But it's always hard for me because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and that, you know, it's easy to talk in general terms, but you start talking specifically about a person's work, it's difficult, because you want to be honest, but like I said, you don't want to crush anybody either. But I would also say that, you know, if you can't take criticism, you shouldn't be an artist, because that's your whole life is going to be criticism. And no one likes it. Trust me. I hate it when people criticize my work, but I also, after I get mad after 5 minutes of critique, then I can kind of pull back and say, well, what did they say? Is it legitimate? What can I learn from it? And I usually take it to heart, even though I don't maybe necessarily want to hear it. Actually, this is actually an easier question. Well, if I'm going to be answering questions, I have to run this. Okay, ask Aaron anything. There it is. What's the fine line between drawing a beautiful woman and falling into the trap of drawing a trampy-looking woman? Well, I mean, actually, I think is a fairly obvious answer. The answer is, how are you portraying them? In other words, what kind of position are you putting them in body-wise? Are you putting them in a suggestive position? Are you just I mean, because you can't just say drawing a beautiful woman, or even for that matter, a handsome, strong male character or whatever. You can't just say, well, because they're good looking, therefore you're sexualizing them. I think it's what the heck happened to my pen? Oh, there it is. I mean, to be honest with you, I think a lot of guys don't use porn as reference. Okay, that'll help to begin with. But I mean, I think there is pretty obvious issues of doing something tastefully and not tastefully, right? Or something that's raunchy or not raunchy. And I don't think it has very, very much to do with how pretty the girl is you're drawing. I think it has to do with the situation you're putting her in, how much cleavage you're showing. I mean, if you're drawing Power Girl, I mean, what can you do, right? I mean, she's got the peekaboo window, and it's kind of like, well, that is what it is. But I still think body language and context, And one of the things I think one of the problems we run into, if you look at comics, 80s, and even maybe go back to 70s, and depending on how old you are, especially the 60s, I mean, you look at Ms. Marvel's first outfit, right? It's actually pretty revealing from the 70s, I mean. But nobody was drawing like Adam Hughes back then. No one was drawing like some of these guys. And so they were drawing in more of a stylized comic book way. So you said, okay, that's a pretty girl. That's representational of a pretty girl, but it didn't necessarily feel like you were doing anything, sort of trashy or revealing. But let's face it, the art has gotten better. And so now you have a girl in a revealing costume that's drawn really, really well, as opposed to in just sort of standard comic book style that we all were used to seeing for, decades. Now you got somebody like Adam Hughes who is taking stuff next level, and it's pretty hard not to see it in a different light. So I think that's part of the problem too. I mean, Frank Miller could draw a woman in not very much clothes, like Elektra, and you wouldn't think much of it because Frank wasn't really, he wasn't really a terrific draftsman in that regard. Whereas if Adam Hughes draws Elektra, well, you're looking at her completely differently. So there is that, which I think, you know, just the talent level, where you have more people that are more like illustrators working in comics as opposed to comic book artists working in comics. And I think the reason for that is that there isn't any outlet for illustration anymore. You can't even, movie posters are all, you know, Photoshop, photo manipulation, right? Drew Struzan is like, you know, it was the last of the great movie poster illustrators. You don't see magazine illustration like you used to see it. It's all photos or Photoshop stuff. And so you have a bunch of really talented illustrators with nowhere to go. So where do they go? They go into comic books because that's the last place you can go to sort of illustrate. And so you have more comic books looking like, you know, illustration or maybe movies than they look like comic books. And I think that's a bad thing, not from just, you know, appreciating the art, but, you know, you're losing a lot of the dynamics and a lot of the fun that comics used to be because you have a different breed of people working on them now, and they're not doing the same thing that maybe a lot of us grew up liking about comics. Let's see. I'm getting way behind here. I read heavy metal as a kid, and I thought I was getting away with stuff because some of the stuff was kind of dirty in it. Or yeah, I mean, the problem with heavy metal was it was generally so well drawn. It's kind of hard when you're looking at let's just say inappropriate material, and but it's really well done. So it's kind of like you've got to appreciate the art, but maybe not necessarily comfortable with the subject matter. And I would say in some of the stories it was, you know, a den got a little racy. You know, Corbin's den got a little racy. You know, it definitely, there was some stories in there that you would have considered were X-rated. But the thing about heavy metal was, I think, and I didn't read it a ton, but I saw, you know, I was exposed to it. Obviously, I read some stuff, but it was more, I mean, the sex was, and I'm not trying to justify, I mean, you just take this as you will, but the sex in it was more part of the story as opposed to being the story, you know. And then I'm not saying that makes it any better or any worse. I'm just simply saying I think that's kind of how I looked at heavy metal. Neil Adams gave me a hard review. What was this? Joe says, Neil Adams gave me a hard review. Then when he asked me if I wouldn't stop, he said, okay, now here's the real review, and gave me real pointers to help me get better. That's what I always, I told my class. Someone asked me, that's right. Who the heck gave this a thumbs down? Are you kidding me? Troll. Yeah. Explicit, maybe not cross the line, but it was kind of ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, there was some stuff in there that was, you know, it was, you know, anyway. And the cigar chompers that say, now listen here, kid, are long gone. That's for sure. Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know what else to say about that. Let's see, there was one question up here. Someone asked me if I ever taught a class, and I did, yes. Way back in the 90s, I was actually still breaking into comics myself, so I don't know how qualified I was actually to teach a class, but I had my opinions even when I was a young artist. You know, we all do. Some of that stuff has probably changed and hopefully evolved since then. But yeah, one of my students, he was 16 at the time in the 90s. He works for Pixar, and he's one of the major animators at Pixar. He actually gave me a tour several years ago when I was at WonderCon. I got a tour of Pixar, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I still run into some of my students. None of them, other than this one guy, pursued art. You know, beyond just doing it recreationally. But it's, I mean, it's a tough profession. There's no doubt about it. You don't always, even if you have the talent, doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to go the way you want it to, or the way you think it should, or the way maybe it should. There's just, God, there's just so many variables when you're working in the arts, and that's, you know, filming, that's filmmaking, as well as illustration or comic art or music, or, you know, it's just tough. And it makes it tougher because everybody wants to do it, right? And not everybody has what it takes to get there. And it's not necessarily always talent either. I mean, I got friends who are super talented, you know, musicians, things like that, that just never, they didn't have the stick with itness to get to the next level. And that's, you know, that's part of it. I mean, I went to film school at USC. I was down in LA for a while, but, you know, in very short order, I was kind of feeling like, you know, I didn't like the way things were going. And I didn't feel like that I had inside me what it would take to, you know, become a successful filmmaker in Hollywood. I just, you know, for a lot of reasons. And so I gave up on it almost immediately, and then tried to get back into comics, which I did not give up on. And things didn't go very smoothly for me trying to break in. It was very difficult. And, but I stuck with it because I really believed I could do it. You know, even when I looked at my art and said, this is not where it needs to be, but I always believed I could get there. And I didn't really have anything else to do either. I was kind of all in on being a comic book artist. You know, I'd gone to film school, and, you know, so talk about a worthless degree, right? And then, so at some point you go, well, I got to go all in on this, because I haven't, you know, either that or I'm going to be doing something I don't want to do for the rest of my life just to get by. So, and I'm fortunate that it worked out for me, at least thus far. Someone also asked in there if I would ever consider working for someone else, or if I'm just, you know, if I'm dead set on doing the independent route. This is hard, doing the independent stuff, because you have to do, you're not just writing and drawing the book, you're promoting it, you're publishing it, and it's a lot of hats to wear, and it's a lot of extra work that takes you away from the drawing board. So, I mean, that's why I'm talking to this Swedish publisher about doing this other thing. you know, if I could do a mini series for someone that you knew you were just getting a paycheck and all you had to do was the work, and then put aside, you know, you're self-publishing for 6 months or something just to do something different. I mean, it would depend on the project, but I certainly would. But I've got a lot of stuff I want to get done independently that, you know, the more time I spend working on someone else's stuff, the less time I'm going to have actually getting to the stuff that I want to do. So at some point you just got to say, nope, I'm just going to do this. But, you know, like that thing I'm talking with the Swedish publisher about, that's my project. He's just publishing it as opposed to me publishing it. You know, I think even Graham just recently wrote something for Aftershock. He didn't do the drawing, but it was a project that just came out, I think, through Aftershock. So, yeah, I mean, I would do something for somebody else. I don't know that. Actually, it is. How did you guess? You know, the thing is, Kathy Lee Crosby was actually the first TV Wonder Woman. You know that, don't you? I know that David knows that. Right now, for the last year, since I haven't done anything for DC since September of last year, and that was so everything I've been doing for the last year has been getting ready, you know, prepping Wraith of God and doing commissions and selling original artwork, you know, and then maybe a cover here or there for a small publisher, and that's been it. What's going on at Marvel and DC right now does not interest me at all, and the farther I'm removed from it, the less interested I am in ever going back to it. You know, that's not to say that if, you know, there was a change in ownership and up at the top and they kind of went in a different direction, that I might be interested in doing something. But I mean, ultimately, you have to understand that you're not getting anything by working for another company other than a paycheck, and that, you know, that's something, right? Clearly, but at some point you age out, right? And they kick you to the curb. They did it to Kirby. They did it to John Byrne. You know, they've essentially done it to more than that over the years, you know, and that, I mean, unless you're like someone like Jim Lee, who's just like a, you know, a generational superstar, even if you're really good, eventually you're going to age out. And that there's another guy coming up that has kind of a cool style and is cheaper than you are and all that kind of stuff, and you're out the door. I mean, it's just unavoidable, right? So at some point you have to kind of realize that's what's going on and accept it and say, okay, well, you know, this road has an ending to it, and I have got to figure out a way that I can keep doing what I want to do here, or what I've spent my whole life doing, and but it's going to have to be a different way, because this is, you know, Marvel and DC is no longer an option for me. And I mean, it absolutely happens to everybody. There's no exceptions. And, or I should say very, very few exceptions. And thankfully, the things are set up now that, you know, with the internet and everything, as evil as it can be, it also provides everybody with an opportunity to get their stuff seen and out into the marketplace, where it wasn't that easy before. So, yes, that was Graham's thing. Hated her as Wonder Woman. Yeah, that was kind of a. Wasn't she like in a tracksuit or something? It was just really weird. It was like a TV movie, wasn't it? Then they kind of went ahead and got Linda Carter to do the television show. You know, here's the thing. If you're an athlete, right? Say you're a track star or a track athlete, you know, you train to be fast. That's what your whole deal is, right? So there's two ways you can train as an artist. You can train to be really good, and regardless of how long it takes, that's my goal, right? And I don't care how long it takes. Or you train yourself to draw quickly, but also try and draw as well as you can, right? So it's kind of a different mindset. And I grew up understanding from a very early age that deadlines in comics were essential. Not so much now, but they were back when I was growing up, and you know, through the 80s and into the 90s, deadlines were essential. You had to hit deadlines or you were canned, right? And or you were relegated to doing special projects. So I just trained to draw that way. It wasn't something that I just woke up one morning and go, wow, man, I'm really fast. That's just how I trained myself to draw. And I think part of it is how quickly can you translate from your mind to get to your hand. You know, what have I got up in my head? How quickly can I get my hand to do what I want it to do and create this drawing on the paper? And, you know, I'm sure that's some inborn ability that goes along with that, but it's also, you know, being able to recognize, not oh, fizzed out there for a minute. Sorry about that. So there you go. There's another sort of weird answer to a pretty basic question. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked at enough comics to know, because I only pick up artists that I like. So I don't. Hey, Rod, finally made it to a live stream. Well, thanks, Rod. Make sure you like and subscribe if you don't mind. All space women are officially black, brown, and trans girls, so darken her up and give her some stubble. I did not say that. I simply read it. Mm-hmm. That's right. I'm Flash Lopresti. Oh my goodness. Well, guys, that's really pretty much all I've got for today. I wanted to draw this little companion piece to go with Merv the Astro Chimp. I want to remind everybody that the Brofessionals is on tonight. Billy Tucci is hosting on his channel, and it'll be 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. I don't know what Central or Mountain time is, so I can't tell you that. But also, Wraith of God, the first 30 days closes out on Saturday, so I'm probably going to be doing an epic live stream for that. And when I say first 30 days, is most people extend the campaign. I'm probably going to extend, but not another 30 days, like just 2 weeks, because I'm honestly I'm tired of all the promotion, and I really want to get to work on it. And it'll still be open in demand beyond that, obviously. But yeah, so anyway, so if you haven't backed it yet and you're thinking maybe you'd like to, the link is in the description of the video. And I would encourage you to just take a moment and check out the campaign if you'd like. Well, you know, not to reveal too much behind the scenes, but a lot of that 80K goes other places than my pocket. There's a ton of money you've got. I'll just give this to you guys real quick. There's platform fees, right, which is like 8.5% of your total. The shipping is also included in that number. So if you have 1,100 backers, you're probably looking at $11,000 in shipping that come out of that. You know, that's maybe not quite that much, but that's sort of a ballpark in how you figure that stuff. You got your printing costs for your book, right? And then in my case, I've got to buy the copies of Garbage Man from Dark Horse, so I have to pay them for that. And then you've got your other printing fees, which are all the free stuff you guys get, the stickers and the prints and the trading cards, and all that stuff comes out of there. And then, even though I'm writing, penciling, and inking this myself, I still have a colorist and a letterist that I have to pay. So it looks good, and it is good, you know, to hit 80K and things like that. But that's not, you know, that's not vacation money. A lot of that is going other places as well. It's just part of the reality of you know, self-publishing, where all the expenses now are you're responsible for. So, but I do appreciate the support, and that's why when you get it into 80 or 90,000, you're in a more comfortable area where you can actually feel like, hey, I'm getting my page rate, and I'm going to be okay. I can pay myself and to do the job. So anyway. But I do appreciate you guys' support and getting us to where we've gotten. And I'm not complaining, because I'm very excited that we've done as well as we have with the project. And I think we'll continue to do better as we go forward. So yeah, bills, man, isn't that the thing? Okay, so that's maybe a little better color shot of this. This camera seems to read the color a little bit better. Let me hit that light. So that's a little colored pencil on top of the warm grays for her hair and her face, and the cool grays for her suit. So there you have it. All right. I may need a translator for that. You ain't got no bros on the professionals unless you have the bro with the mo. Dude, you're always welcome. You know that. The Joe Kubert one, not yet. I was trying to fix my perks and tiers on my campaign page last night, which took about 2 hours longer than I thought it was going to. Hey, thank you. I intend to, when he goes to do Fragtober or whatever, I will make a reappearance and lay down the law again. All right, guys. Again, thank you for joining me. Remember the professionals tonight. I won't be on tomorrow, but I will be on Saturday, since that's going to be the end of the 30-day cycle for Wraith of God. So I'll be on my stream. I might be on Ethan. I don't know, but I will be on all day, or at least, well, after the Nebraska game, I'll be on. And so afternoon and through the evening until that sucker closes. So again, thanks, and we will catch you guys later. Make sure you like and subscribe on your way out if you haven't already. Appreciate it. Peace.